Alright, we've already made some cool changes, but what else can we do? Well, let's think. We could give our character a tattoo. So let's go look at some tattoo design ideas. And as I'm looking at these tattoo design ideas, I'm realizing it would probably be a good idea to sort by something that has transparency. There's other ways that we could make this work, but this is by far the easiest. So tools, color, and transparent. Alright, so there's some pretty cool stuff here. Let's go ahead and grab this one just as an example. Again, I'll try to make sure that I'm not getting a thumbnail and I'm getting the best version of this image that I can. Then I need to get it off the internet and onto my computer. Now this is a pretty small image, but let's see if we can make it work. Let's drag and drop this into Photoshop. Now you can ignore this. I'll have to restart my computer in a minute. This is a bug where sometimes a desktop icon just keeps showing up no matter what's supposed to be in front of it. But we'll just work through that for now. So here's my tattoo. And let's say that our friend here has given up on ever working a job in retail and has decided to get a face tattoo. Well, that should do the trick. Of course, I can scale this up or down a little bit. And let's go see how it looks. So we will save as. Let's call this tattoo. And remember to change it to a PNG. And we will save and hit OK. Let it finish its save process. Now let's jump back into Unity. We will bring in our new tattoo texture. Here it is. We'll replace the albedo with it. And there you have it. This character has given up on a lot of possible job opportunities. She officially has a face tattoo. Her options are, well, a little more limited. But there you go. Now let's take a look at just one more possible option. Of course, really the possibilities are endless. But one thing we haven't talked about yet is the actual skin color. Now this one is probably the trickiest one that we've done yet, because honestly, there are entire master's classes teaching painters about how to pick realistic skin colors and get the tone and shading right. And you can see there's a lot of nuance in the skin tone here. The difference between the inside of the ear to the face to the areas around the nose. The colors of parts of the hands and fingers look almost entirely different from the colors that are on the rest of the skin. So getting this right can be very tricky. So I'm not exactly saying that I recommend trying this, but you might experiment with it, especially if you have a character that you want to look a little bit different. Right now, this girl is pretty pale. We could just try to give her a little bit of a tan or something like that. Maybe wouldn't be too tough. So the first step that I would recommend is, well, just like before, let's go ahead and select the areas that have our skin tone. I'm going to go to my quick selection tool and make sure that I'm on the layer that actually has her skin texture on it. Otherwise, it's not going to have a lot of color data to work with. And you can already see that the selection tool is having a little bit of a tougher time separating out these areas. But with a little addition and subtraction back and forth, we are getting pretty close. But it will take a little more time, and you might have to do some of it by hand using the polygonal select tool instead of just quick select. I'm not going to spend all day on that right now because I want to keep this tutorial moving, but the more accuracy you want, the more you may have to do some of it by hand. But we're getting pretty close here. Get a little bit of this extra hair out. So this should take care of the face and the hands for the most part. Now let's go down and get what I believe is part of the arms and elbows. And now I'm going to be completely honest, some of this right here, I'm not entirely sure what this is. I would have to go take a closer look. Without actually seeing our UV layout on top of our 3D model in a program like Maya, it can be pretty tricky to figure some of these things out. So I'm going to leave these alone for right now. I might end up with patches of skin that don't get recolored the way I want them to, and it could end up looking pretty weird. But let's do a little experimentation and see what happens. I'm also going to go back to select and go to save selection in case I need to use this later. And I'm going to just call this skin, or maybe skin color. Now my next big piece of advice for changing the skin color would be to not diverge too far and to use the skin color itself as a point of reference. So the easiest way to do that is go to our eyedropper tool and then select what seems to be kind of an intermediate skin tone. So maybe not the palest point, certainly not the darkest point like the inside of the ear, but maybe something around here. And then I'm going to open up my color palette after picking that. So this is kind of a good example of maybe what like the average skin color is. So let's say we want her to be a little more tan on average. Well, I might just go pick a color not too far from my original, something like this. And now if I were to take this color and just start painting, well, all of a sudden, this isn't going to look like much. That's not what we want to do. So like before, we're going to want to create a new layer. I'll call this skin color 2.0 because I'm adjusting the skin color with this. And I definitely don't want this to be a normal layer. I might want this to be like a multiply layer. Let's see how that looks. So you can see we're keeping a lot of that old information about our skin tone, but it is changing significantly too. Though this even might be a little bit too drastic. I feel like I want to walk this back a little bit. So I'm doing Control-Option-Z to undo more than one step. You could also just go up to Edit and step backwards a couple times if you need to do something like this. I'm just going to take the opacity of this whole layer down a little bit. So I've got my new color painted over, and you can see it's a pretty drastic change, and it might be a little bit too drastic yet. So I might want to make this a little more subtle. I'm going to just take my skin color 2.0 layer here, and I'm going to take the opacity, and I am going to tweak that down a little bit. And now let's see if I turn this layer on and off. You can see that's a significant change in the skin color. It still feels believable, I think. We'll have to see it actually on the character and see how it turns out. So let's go see. Let's do a save as. We'll just call this one new skin. As always, make sure it's a PNG and save and OK. All right, let's bring this one in and see how it looks. Going back to the body albedo, we will bring in new skin. And let's see what the finished result actually looks like. All right, so it looks like maybe she spent a few days on the island out in the sun. I think this looks pretty believable. So step by step, little by little, we've taken a very plain character, given them some color, some character, and just some changes that can make them feel more unique. And this way we can all pull from the same pool of assets and still have something that feels unique to our world. And really, the more time you spend on this, the further you can go. And you could really take these characters and evolve them into something completely different. Just like our girl over here, this guy, we could put a logo on the hoodie, we could change his shoes, we could have him wearing gloves or change his hairstyle. There's a lot of stuff that we could do. So your task for this week is whatever character you have in your scene, take this diffuse import settings right here, take that out of Unity, get it into Photoshop, make some adjustments, and then bring it back into Unity and get it on your character. Please take your time, try to have some fun with it. There's a lot of cool approaches you can take when reskinning your character. So think about it, come up with a plan, decide who you want them to be, what you want them to look like, make those changes, and then once it's all back in Unity, go ahead and share it with us on Schoology by taking a screenshot and putting it in the comments section. I'll write it in the comments as well, but I'm going to want you to change at least one color and add at least one image. All right, guys, good luck and have fun.